on why I really got interested in this area. And it's when I, not just from when I was at the Department of Ed and watching what the state virtual schools and online learning programs in a few districts at that time across the US were doing to really change what was available for kids. But I had this conversation with someone overseas in the UK who was working with the International Baccalaureate program on starting their International Baccalaureate online, and was giving me the background and how they were going after this foundation funding to create these, what they called gold standard classes. And they said, what I don't understand is in the US you have 50 different states creating 50 different virtual schools to serve kids. And I said, well, we have to, right? At this point, we've got 50 different academic. There are reasons why we have to, because of policy and funding models. Then the next thing that happened is a story about the Bell South Foundation at the time, working very closely with SREB, wanting to do a collaborative content development project. So we've got 4 state virtual schools that were interested, and Liz Gloa from Maryland at the time was one of the real leaders in that project. The folks from Georgia, Louisiana came to the table very, very readily to develop an Algebra 1 kind of course. Now, you know that Gary's done this, so something went wrong in this project, and this is part of the story here. And that is, they set out to say we all, and then Florida came to the table. So you've got Maryland, Louisiana, Georgia, and Florida all saying we've developed online courses. We want to share what we've developed, and then we want to build upon that and make a really, best-in-class online course. And the project was funded for, I think, up to 2 years. And in the first 6 months, not a lot had happened, in the first 12 months. And the reason why is that the state virtual programs had to go to their lawyers. And the lawyers said these projects were funded by taxpayer dollars and they weren't licensed publicly. So you can't share them. Cannot share. And it got embroiled in this huge problem, and Liz, remember trying to get the MOU signed and all of that. This was all about other things rather than educating kids and having people try to work together. And I was brought in by Bell South to document the process, and I actually have a background document on collaborative content development that walks through some of the lessons learned from this. But to me, the big aha was here are 4 states that want to work together on it, and because of the licensing issues, they had to narrow it down to a single lesson. And then you had to break into 2 groups. One was the academic standards groups, and you'd say, okay, well, what are the differences in 4 states in the Algebra 1 down to a single lesson? And when you looked at the specific wording in Algebra 1 lessons, it got to be, just that was what made me realize the Common Core work is more important than we can ever realize here. And the other piece was the technical aspects of it. So not only the technical standards, but they were all in different learning management systems, and what were you going to build it in, and how is this shared? Okay, there's a huge issue. So here's the context of federal stimulus. Right now, what does that story mean? Is that people don't realize how important openness is for sharing and collaboration. You really cannot do it when you're talking about content development without understanding the frameworks and getting that set up. We're in a unique opportunity right now, and I think the Hewlett Foundation realized that it was about a year ago in March that they said, we've been funding these different open projects, including NROC and others, but the Washington policy and these federal opportunities that are going to be coming in the stimulus, how can we catalyze when content is developed, making it available and open, and so we don't fall off that funding cliff, right? So it's still there. So that's like the story of the background on why I got interested in it, but then you realize that there are 2 kind of components that this project is set out. One is identifying the key federal, not only the stimulus opportunities, but other opportunities that are presenting themselves. So we have an unprecedented amount of money in Race to the Top. For example, when I was at the US Department of Education, the secretary had a discretionary pot of money that was, at that time, considered to be quite large. It was $200,000. $4 billion has never happened on any kind of scale. So to realize how much this matters, it's incredibly important. And the process in which they're releasing this money in Race to the Top is also incredibly important. Because right now, they still haven't sent out $1 of the $4 billion to the state for Race to the Top. But there have been more changes in state law across the 50 states towards education reforms that the department wants to drive than ever before. Think about that. They haven't even spent $1 yet. So they're doing the Race to the Top awards in 2 rounds. And in the first round, we think that they're only going to award a very small number. And that way they have a second round where they can ask for more reforms and get more changes than ever before in order to get those awards, right? So this is a very interesting strategy, and it seems to be working pretty well for what they're setting out to do. So in the Race to the Top, and the other big stimulus opportunity that's still ahead of us, right, is an any day now investing in innovation. And that's $650 million, which again is quite large. These components and these ideas in Race to the Top and in investing in innovation are seeming to work so far in theory as far as federal policymakers go, and you may see components like this in the proposed reauthorization of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act. So that's just ahead. This is setting a trend to come and giving a way to look at things in the future.